Hello, my name is Eleanor. I'm going to show you how to make a tote bag using the Ellyjules tote bag kit. So let's get started. In your bag kit you should have the outer pieces, the lining which also has the zip pocket already inserted, the straps, and then we also have interfacing for the bag outer and also interfacing for the straps. You will also need some pins, a tape measure and scissors. We will start by putting the interfacing onto the wrong side of the outer fabric. We're going to lay it over the top and then pin it in place. So make sure that you have it nice and straight. So now we're going to pin this into place. And then we're going to stitch the interfacing to the fabric. Right, we're now ready for stitching. We're now going to stitch the interfacing to the fabric. We're going to use our largest stitch, which is called the basting stitch. Sometimes it's known as tacking. Here we go. Make sure we keep the pins out of the way because we don't want to sew over the top of the pins. Right, we're going to carry on and stitch all the way around the rest of the fabric. So we have the interfacing now attached to the outer piece of fabric, and we've stitched all the way around the edges to make sure it is secure. We're now going to attach the straps. I have already pressed the edges and inserted the interfacing, and we're going to fold it over double like this, and we're going to stitch that next. Now we have the strap pinned together. If you wish, you can baste it together at this point, but I'm just going to use the pins. I've reduced the size of the stitch now to a normal stitch size, and we're going to stitch now about 1/8 of an inch away from the edge. A good way to make sure that you're keeping it nice and straight is to look at the edging here, and we can see that that's where the 1/8 of the edge marker is on my sewing machine. So I'm going to keep a good close eye on that while I sew. You can take your time at this point, no rush. So now we're going to start at the top end from where we started before, but on the opposite side, and we're going to go down the same again, 1/8 of an inch away from the edge. We're now going to attach the strap to the outer piece of fabric. So we take our tape measure and measure from the edge 5 centimetres. Line your strap up with it, and then take 2 pins and put one on each side. That makes sure it stays in place so it doesn't move around. And we're going to do the same on the opposite side now. So 5 centimetres from the edge, and then line it up and put 2 pins in place again. 1, 2. And we're now ready to stitch these into place along the top. Okay, so now we have the straps in place, and what we're going to do now is put the 2 pieces together. So right sides to right side, one on top of the other, and then just line up the edges and pin into place. It's going to feel a little bit bulky underneath the straps, but don't worry about that. As long as you keep the straps out of the way from the edges, that's fine. have to just ease it into place, just over those bulky straps at the bottom. And if you feel that you need more pins than this, then by all means put a few extra in until you feel that it's secure enough to stitch. So we're now ready to stitch around the edges. We're going to stitch around here and here. Okay. Right, there we go. Once more, keeping the pins out of the way and making sure you're on the outside of the previous basting stitches. And you go all the way around the edges. Okay, so now we have stitched these 3 sides in place, and we're now going to do the corners. So this is what we do. We pick it up, put your fingers inside and pull it out so that these 2 seams are now meeting inside. So you make sure that these 2 seams are flush, and then you pin it in place. 2 pins will be quite sufficient. We need to make sure that these seams are opened here so that we make sure that they're not caught in as we stitch them. We're now going to stitch. Now we're ready to stitch. We can see that we have left the seams nice and flat and open so that everything will be nice and neat. Now we're going to stitch straight across here. I'm going to do a reverse stitch just to make sure that that stitching is nice and secure, because this is going to form the corners of the bags. And that's it, and then we repeat on the opposite side. So we've now completed the outer shell of the bag. Let's turn it the right way out just to have a look and see what it looks like now. You can see that here are the corners that we've just done. So that gives the bag a lovely nice shape. And that's the outside of the bag completed, and we can set that to one side now. Now we turn our attentions to the lining. The zip is already in place, so all we need to do now is put right sides together and do exactly as we did with the outer shell, and that is to pin it in place and then stitch around the edges. Okay, so now we have completed the lining. That is all fastened together just exactly the same as the outer piece. So we're going to turn the lining now with the right side on the outside. You see we now have the zip pocket on the outside. I've also turned the fabric side inside out, and now we're going to slot right sides together. We're going to put the lining inside the bag, and then we're going to match up. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to put the seams together. So match the seams together and pin in place. Open out the seams so that they're lying flat against each other. I've also pressed these open so that they're a little bit easier to stay and keep in place. Right, now here's where the pocket is. This side we're going to pin over completely. So we're going to get on each side, pins on each side of the strap here, so as to make sure that the strap is securely in place. You can even put one through it if you wish. And we do the same on the opposite side. If it's not quite even, then either re-look at your seams and see if you can adjust them, or ease it into place. So this one's fitting perfectly. One more pin. now we're going to go around to the opposite side, and I'm going to do the same again. Pin, hit one over the top of the strap to keep it in place. It's a little bit thick, so you might struggle a little, but if your pins are sharp enough, you should have no trouble. Now at this point I'm not going to pin this area here. That needs to be open because that's the area where we're going to turn the bag right side out again. So now we're ready to stitch, and we're going to stitch all the way around this edge, the 1/2 inch to 5/8 of an inch around. Alright, so we're now stitched all the way around the edge, and we have the gap here, and we're going to pull it through. So pull the lining through and push your bag out. There's your straps. We're now going to just push the lining back inside to the bag, get right into the very corners. And there we have our bag, and we're almost finished now. Now you can probably see that by pushing the lining in, we now have a little gap just at the top there, and if we measure it, it measures 1 centimetre. So now you need to make sure that that measures 1 centimetre all the way around, and what we're going to do is that we're going to press that so that we have 1 centimetre of your fabric showing on the inside of your bag all the way around. Okay, now the bag has been pressed, and I've put some pins in place just to hold it secure while I stitch it. Now you will remember that we had a gap here where we turned the bag inside out. So this is the area that we particularly want to make sure we catch with the stitching, and we're going to stitch just along this edge here, and that will secure the whole bag in place. Now if you wish also, you can also add an extra line of stitching right along the top here, which will also make sure that the straps are very secure. Your bag is now complete. We've stitched around here and then around the top area, and your straps are now securely in place and you're ready to go shopping.